Hi, it's Vince Douglas here, and today I want to talk about something that still surprises me, even now. When I was younger, I used to picture getting old like a slow fade out. Whoa. I imagined it meant naps in the afternoon, knitting scarves you'll never wear, and maybe sitting on a front porch in a creaky rocking chair, watching life pass by. That was it. That was the whole image. Simple, quiet, predictable. But let me tell you something, growing old is nothing like I expected. Sure, I do enjoy a good nap now and then. I mean, who doesn't? But the rest, not even close. Getting older has been strange. Sometimes hilarious, sometimes inconvenient. And once in a while, unexpectedly beautiful. There are moments now where I find myself laughing at things that used to make me anxious. I've cried in grocery stores over old songs. I've made friends in the most random places, like waiting in line for a flu shot. And I've learned things about myself I wish I had known when I was 30. Nobody warned me that aging wasn't just about your body slowing down. It's about your soul waking up. And that, my friend, has been the most surprising part of all. So today, I want to open up this conversation with you. Not about getting older in that here's what vitamins you should take kind of way, but about what really happens. The little things, the feelings, the mental shifts, the stuff nobody puts in the brochures. And here's where you come in. What's something that surprised you about aging? Was it a moment, a realization, maybe a new hobby you never saw coming? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to hear. I think we've all got something to share that might just make someone else's day a little brighter, or at least help them feel a little less alone in this weird, wonderful ride we call growing older. So stick around, because I've got some stories that might make you laugh, maybe tear up a bit, and hopefully remind you that just because we're getting older doesn't mean we're done growing. Let's get into it. When I was in my 20s or 30s, I had a pretty clear picture of what old looked like. And I'll be honest, it wasn't flattering. I thought older people were always tired, always grumpy, always complaining about how things used to be better back in the day. I imagined they moved slower, laughed less, and mostly just waited for life to wrap itself up. And maybe part of that came from movies and TV shows. Think about it. How often do we see older characters portrayed as vibrant and joyful? Not often. They're usually the ones sitting in the corner, shouting, "What?" because they can't hear, or falling asleep mid-conversation. That was the stereotype. That's what I expected. But now that I've crossed into my 60s, and many of my friends are in their 70s and even 80s, I can tell you that image couldn't be more wrong. Some of the most curious, energetic, and downright funny people I know are well past 70. My friend Larry, he's 78, just started learning Spanish and rides his bike every morning like he's training for the Tour de France. My neighbor, Joan, she's 82, throws better dinner parties than anyone half her age, and she knows how to make everyone feel like they matter. And don't get me started on my cousin Dee. At 75, she started posting dance videos on TikTok. She has more followers than I do. It turns out, aging doesn't mean you lose yourself. It just means you have the freedom to be even more of who you are, without all the pressure to prove anything.
We've been told the story that aging is about decline. But in real life, oh, where? Where? What? It's often about rediscovery. And sure, there are changes. The knees creak a little louder. The eyesight's not what it used to be. But the heart, the soul, if anything, they're stronger, more awake, more grateful. Sometimes I think the biggest surprise about getting older is realizing how much living there still is to do. So let me ask you this. What did you think aging would be like? And how has your experience turned out differently? Did you used to picture a quiet retirement and now you're busier than ever? Or maybe you thought you'd lose your spark, but instead you discovered a new one. I'd love to know. Because I think the more we talk about this, the more we break those old stereotypes, the more we can help each other see aging for what it really is, not an ending, but a becoming. Growing old doesn't always look like what we saw in movies, does it? Sometimes it looks a whole lot better. One of the biggest surprises about growing older, and I mean really getting older, is how different it feels on the inside compared to what people expect from the outside. Let me explain. My knees creak when I climb the stairs. My back has opinions about long road trips. And sometimes I walk into a room and forget why I'm there. I just stand there like, was I getting my glasses? Or was I already wearing them? But despite all that, in my head, I still feel 35. That part hasn't changed. I still get excited about new ideas. I still dream about taking road trips I haven't planned. I still imagine starting projects I have no business starting. I still look at the world with curiosity. There's this part of me, that same restless, creative part I had in my 20s that never left. And sometimes I even feel bolder now. Back then, I was too busy trying to get it right. Now, I don't need permission. I painted my garage door yellow last year, just because I wanted to. Did it match the house? Absolutely not. Did it make me smile every time I pulled into the driveway? You bet it did. That brings me to the second thing that really surprised me about aging. I started caring less, but in the best way possible. I don't mean I stopped caring about people or about life. I mean, I stopped caring about what other people thought. And let me tell you, that is a kind of freedom I wish I'd discovered decades ago. There was a time when I would go out of my way to be polite, agreeable, proper, even if it meant saying no. And the world didn't fall apart. In fact, I slept like a baby that night. Now, I wear what makes me happy. I speak my mind, kindly, but clearly. I spend time with people who make me laugh, not people who make me tired. Aging gives you a kind of X-ray vision. You start to see what really matters and what never did. And the third surprise? Time speeds up, but moments feel deeper. I swear, birthdays arrive faster than Amazon Prime these days. Years blur by like calendar pages flipping in a movie montage. But when I sit down for coffee with an old friend, when I watch my grandchild discover something new, when I take a quiet walk at sunset, those moments feel richer, more full, or alive. It's like time moves fast, but I'm finally slowing down enough to feel it. So let me ask you, have you noticed any of these surprises in your own life? Do you still feel young inside, even if your body occasionally disagrees? Have you learned to stop caring about things that don't deserve your energy? Have you found joy in the little quiet things? If so, welcome to the club. And if not, maybe it's coming sooner than you think. Because aging isn't just about what we lose. Sometimes it's about what we finally gain. Okay, let's talk about the funny stuff no one tells you about getting older. Because yes, aging brings wisdom, perspective, deeper appreciation for life, and all that good stuff. But it also brings some downright ridiculous surprises that still make me laugh out loud, or at least shake my head and accept defeat. Let me start with this classic. You walk into a room and completely forget why you're there. I mean, you stand there staring at the walls like they might give you a clue. Was I getting my phone, my glasses, a snack? Was I even hungry? And then, of course, you go back to the kitchen, sit down, and remember exactly what it was. So you get up again and hope you don't forget on the way there. It's like playing a memory game against yourself. Another unexpected shift. I've developed a sudden fascination with plants, birds, and historical documentaries. I used to scroll right past those nature shows. Now, I'll sit for an hour watching hummingbirds build nests like it's a Marvel movie. And don't even get me started on the History Channel. One episode about World War II, and I'm hooked. When did that happen? And here's a fun one. I go to bed earlier than ever and still wake up feeling like I slept on gravel. And naps? Oh, naps have become sacred. But somehow, even with 8 hours in a mid-afternoon nap, I'm still ready for another one by 5 p.m. Oh, in grocery stores, let's not skip this gin. Somewhere along the way, I became the person in the produce aisle who gives unsolicited cooking advice. Left double quotation mark. These are the kinds of things nobody prepares you for. There's no guidebook that says, by age 67, you will be emotionally invested in your basil plant and feel personally offended when it wilts. And yet, here we are. But you know what? I've learned to laugh at these changes because they remind me that life is still full of surprises, even the silly ones. And honestly, they make for some pretty great stories. I mean, who wants to be predictable anyway? So, let me ask you, what's something unexpected or just plain funny that aging brought into your life? Did you develop a sudden obsession with crossword puzzles? Do you now talk to squirrels like they're coworkers? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear your weirdest, most wonderful aging moments. And trust me, you're not alone. Because getting older may not be what we thought, but sometimes it's funnier than we ever imagined. Whoa, you know, there are things I've learned in my older years that no book, no class, and no younger version of me could have taught. These are lessons you don't fully get until you've lived enough life to look back and then forward again with clearer eyes. And I wouldn't trade them for anything. Let me start with the biggest one. Relationships matter most. Not money, not houses, not the titles you collect or the stuff you accumulate. It's the people, the ones who show up, the ones who sit across from you at dinner and really listen, not because they want something, but because they love you just as you are. I remember one quiet evening a few years ago. My old friend Jerry had stopped by. We sat at the table, just the two of us, sharing a homemade meat, nothing fancy, just meatloaf and mashed potatoes. We talked about everything and nothing. And at one point, he laughed so hard, he spilled water on the table, and we both lost it. That night stayed with me. Because in that moment, it wasn't about what we were eating. It was about being known, being seen. That kind of connection You can't buy it. You have to build it, nurture it, and, most importantly, make time for it. Which brings me to the second lesson. Slowing down is not a weakness, it's a gift. For so much of my life, I was rushing to work, rushing through errands, rushing to get older, ironically. And then, one morning, I stopped. I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, wrapped in an old sweater. The sun was rising. The birds were already gossiping in the trees. And for once, there was no checklist. Just that moment. That stillness. I noticed the way the sunlight touched the leaves. The sound of a car in the distance. The warmth of the mug in my hands. It wasn't dramatic, but it was real. And I thought, why did I wait so long for this? You start to realize, life isn't meant to be sprinted through. It's meant to be tasted. Like a good piece of chocolate, slowly, fully, with gratitude. And finally, the lesson that might surprise you the most. You're never too old to begin again. At 68, I picked up a paintbrush for the first time since high school. I wasn't trying to be good, I just wanted to play with color. It was messy, joyful, healing. Monday friend Elaine, she started learning the ukulele at 74. Now she plays at the local coffee shop every Friday night. And Ron, my neighbor, he started dating again in his 80s after losing his wife. And he says he's smiling in a way he hasn't in decades. So if you're sitting there thinking it's too late, I want to challenge that. Maybe the best part of your story hasn't been written yet. Maybe there's still music in you, a painting, a garden, a road trip, a laugh you haven't laughed yet. Life doesn't end when the candles on the cake start to multiply. In fact, if you're willing, it just might begin. Again. So tell me, what lesson has aging taught you that you never expected? Let me know in the comments. You know, I'd love to tell you that getting older is all wisdom and peaceful mornings, and a lot of it is beautiful. Let me be honest with you. There are still things I struggle with. First, the loneliness. Not every day, but it comes in waves. Especially after losing a few close friends over the years. You don't realize how much you relied on someone until you reach for the phone. And remember, they're not there anymore. It's a quiet kind of grief, one that doesn't shout, but lingers. And the world, well, it's moving faster than ever. I try to keep up. I really do. But some days, I feel like I've been left behind in a tech race I didn't sign up for. There's a new app, a new update, a new thing every other week. And while everyone's tapping away on their phones like pros, I'm just trying to remember where I saved the dang photo of my grandkid. Then there's health. You wake up, and suddenly, your knee has an opinion about the weather. Or you worry that one little ache might be the start of something bigger. And worst of all, the fear of becoming a burden. Needing help, losing independence. That's a hard one to sit with. But even with all that, I wouldn't trade this chapter of life for anything. Why? Because there's something deeply powerful about this stage. I may not move as fast, but I move with more purpose. I may forget a password, but I remember what matters. I've had time to learn who I really am, to sit with my thoughts without needing to rush through them. And I've seen enough to know that the hard moments, the lonely dinners, the scary doctor visits, the tech confusion, they don't define this season. They're just part of it. So if you're watching this and feeling like you're falling behind or wondering if anyone else feels this way, I promise You're not alone. We're all figuring it out, one honest moment at a time. And maybe, just maybe, the fact that we still feel these things, grief, worry, frustration, means we're still deeply alive, still growing, still human. Let me ask you this. What's one thing you still struggle with? Quietly, maybe even secretly, that others might not see? I'd love for you to share it in the comments below. Because talking about it, that's how we heal. That's how we remind each other we're not the only ones. Here's something I never expected about growing older. It's not the end of anything. In fact, it's the beginning of something entirely different. Something quieter, yes, but richer, deeper, more meaningful. You see, for most of my life, I was rushing. Rushing to raise kids, to meet deadlines, to fix things, to be everything for everyone. And somewhere in all that noise, I lost track of me. My own thoughts, my own dreams, even my own breath sometimes. But aging gave me the gift of time. Time to sit quietly with a cup of tea and actually taste it. Time to take walks without needing a destination. Time to read the books I once bought but never opened. Time to look back without regret. And to finally, truly, look inward. There's a kind of freedom that comes with growing older, isn't there? I'm no longer trying to prove anything. I don't worry so much about what others think. I don't have to carry every burden or say yes to things just to keep the peace. I've shed so many layers of guilt, expectation, and pressure. And what's left underneath is me. A little softer, maybe. A little slower, but more whole. And there's this new kind of love that's bloomed. A gentler love. For others, for the way people try, even when they fall short, but especially for myself. I used to be so hard on myself. But these days, I'm learning how to forgive my own mistakes, how to laugh at my quirks, and how to hold my own hand when no one else is around. Gratitude has also become my closest companion. Not in a cheesy, live, laugh, love kind of way, but in the real, quiet sense of being thankful for small things. A warm sunbeam through the window, a call from an old friend, a good night's sleep. So, no, aging is not the end. It's a different kind of beginning. One where you finally get to meet the version of yourself that was always trying to emerge beneath the noise. And maybe the most beautiful part, I no longer chase happiness. I notice it. In little moments, in everyday peace. So let me ask you, what's one thing you've grown to love about getting older? Something you didn't expect, but now cherish. Share it with me in the comments. I'd love to hear what this chapter of life has taught you. Because if there's one truth I've found, it's this. Growing old isn't about fading away. It's about coming home to yourself. You know, before we wrap up, I'd really love to hear from you. What's something that truly surprised you about growing older? Maybe it was something beautiful, like finally finding peace in silence, or realizing how little you care about impressing people anymore. Or maybe it was something bittersweet, like discovering how much you miss someone's voice, or how memories sometimes visit you when you least expect them. Whatever it is, I invite you to share it in the comments. Truly, I read every single one. And I'm always moved by your honesty, your wisdom, and the way we can make each other feel a little less alone through just a few words. Because that's the heart of why I started making these videos. I wanted a place, a real place, where we could talk about aging not as something to fear, but as something to embrace. With laughter, with grace, with a little messy truth, and a whole lot of humanity. And if these little chats feel comforting to you, if they make you nod along, or smile, or maybe even tear up a little, then I'd be honored if you'd hit that like button. It helps more than you know, not just with the algorithm stuff, but with helping other people find this space too. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We're not trying to go viral here. We're building something slower, gentler. A space where people of all ages, but especially those of us a little further along the road, can feel seen, understood, and connected. Let's grow older together, with joy, with curiosity, with the kind of humor that comes from living through things most people don't even talk about anymore. And remember, no matter how old you are or where you are on your path, you matter. Your story matters. And your best moments might still be ahead of you. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care of yourself and maybe take a quiet moment just for you today. You've earned it.